Mark and Amber, they're going through it, and the way things look for Mark, it's not gonna get any better for their relationship. Hey guys, welcome back if you're returning. If you're new here, welcome as well. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate all of the support. Now this episode wasn't as brutal as the previous episode, but there are still a lot of good things to talk about. That being said, let's talk about Rex. Now Rex really came through and he actually made it, which is surprising because I really thought he was a goner, especially the way he took that bullet. Something I found funny that I probably shouldn't have laughed at or enjoyed as much as I did was when Rex flipped the tables, turned the tables on his attacker, and then his attacker was like, please, like, don't do this, stuff like that. You know, basically pleading with Rex for his life. That really cracked me up because he really had the audacity to plead for his life after everything he did. Like, come on now, he should have known that that was not gonna work. Okay, anyway, I'm kind of curious about how Ray survived as well, because looking back at the previous episode, I don't know how someone could survive that. On top of that being such a brutal way to go out, it's just not making sense to me, so maybe I'm overlooking something. But I mean, he did clearly chew and swallow and said yum. Now, everyone won't agree with this and that's fine, but personally, I feel like had there been no survivors, this situation would have felt a lot more severe. But because a few people survived, it doesn't feel as severe anymore, but I could be wrong and that could just be me. I mean, what's interesting about Rex surviving and Ray surviving is the fact that Rex kind of took the time to reflect on the things that he did wrong, and that's really great for character development. So I'm definitely looking forward to Rex and seeing how he changes. Next thing I want to touch on is how we had several people in their feelings about something. The Immortal was in his feelings, Amber and Mark, they were in their feelings, Donald was in his feelings, and William's boyfriend was in his feelings. As well as Adam Eve, who's been in her feelings for a while. So as far as the Immortal goes, I was actually glad to see him upset about Kate because that shows that he was genuine, he actually cared for her, and I personally like that we get to see a more vulnerable and softer side to him. In addition, he also did a very good job at Kate's funeral. He said some very heartfelt things, some things that you can clearly tell he meant and had emotion behind them. So that was something else that was really nice to see. Next up, let's get into Amber and Mark. Now we can tell that they clearly have love for each other. They're each other's first love, I believe. So of course there's some strong and intense emotions behind that. However, the feelings are there and the time isn't because Mark is always busy, Mark is in high demand, and he's always saving people. And I really like how this episode explained things so well, and we got Amber's side and how she feels, and we got Mark's side and how he feels about the situation as well. Now by this point, I know y'all are aware that I ship Mark and Adam Eve, aka Samantha.
Thanks.
And this is one of the reasons I ship them so hard, is because they're both heroes, they both have issues within their family, with their dad specifically, and I really feel like Mark would do so right by Adam Eve. Anyway, because I feel like Amber and Mark, they're struggling with Mark's work-life balance or superhero life balance, that relationship is not gonna last. But I definitely could be wrong, and I look forward to seeing how they try their best to adapt to the challenges of their relationship. I mean, if she's able to handle it and that works for her, then great. But I feel like it would really help Amber a lot if she got a little bit closer to Mark's mom. She mentioned feeling lonely and having no one to talk to about these things. Well, Debbie went through the same thing probably with Nolan, so maybe she could get some advice from Debbie as to how Debbie was able to deal with Omni-Man taking on this task of saving the world and stuff. As for Donald, it's clear that he's still processing his emotions, his feelings, his thoughts. And then we kind of have the same situation with William's boyfriend, Rick, who is just like Donald. And Rick is questioning himself. He's having these feelings as well. So I'm kind of hoping that Donald and Rick will be able to help each other out a little bit. But I feel like that'd be pretty difficult for Donald, considering if he can't even help himself sort through this, how is he going to help Rick? I'm definitely looking forward to how things play out for the both of them. Because unlike Donald, Rick at least has William to kind of help him out and help him sort through his emotions and feelings and stuff. Donald doesn't really have anyone. Also, I'm sure we can expect William and Rick's relationship to definitely be a little bit different given the circumstances that Rick is under. So that's going to be interesting as well. As far as Adam Eve, I'm still trying to figure her out because I thought after her conversation with Rex, she'd feel a little bit better. but maybe something like that is going to take time regardless. Either way, I'm really glad that she's taking a step back and helping when she's absolutely needed, because she has the awareness that she shouldn't be playing hero right now when she doesn't know what it means to be a hero for her, which is respectable, and I'm glad Cecil kind of backed off, because Cecil can definitely be a bit much at times. Then we had Alan make an appearance, and obviously he went to follow up on what he and Thetis talked about, which was to basically recruit Mark. The Immortal got to Alan first, thinking he was Omni-Man, and luckily Mark kind of stepped in to get the situation under control, because on top of the Immortal having a really bad day, I feel like he would have got wrecked and bodied by Alan. And I will say, I think I'm starting to notice that the Immortal and Mark's relationship seems to be improving a little bit, like they seem to be getting along. And maybe the Immortal doesn't suspect Mark as much, which I think that's a really great thing, because Mark really shouldn't have to pay for the sins that his father committed. They are two different people. Anyway, I really like how Mark and Alan, they caught up for a little bit. Like we said, Alan's trying to recruit Mark, and Mark's like, look, I just came back from space and I really don't want to go back, but here's what I can do for you instead. Mark grabs the books that he got from Art earlier from their conversation, and he shows Alan the books, and they come to the conclusion that maybe there's some kind of hint of how to stop the Viltrumites, and that's something that they can use in the upcoming war. While Alan was a bit disappointed he couldn't get Mark to come back with him, he was happy to at least take something back to Thetis, and I'm sure it also helped that Mark said that whenever they needed him, he'd definitely be there to provide support when the time comes. Now, since we're on the subject of Viltrumites, we did get a peek of what's going on with Omni-Man. Surprisingly, he's still alive and he's just imprisoned. And I like how the other Viltrumite was basically like, what's going on with you? You didn't used to be this way. Like, how can one planet change you so much? I also found it kind of funny how he was like, if Earth can do this to you, then it's clearly toxic and we got to get rid of it. But as it turns out, the Viltrumites, they're not the only thing Earth has to worry about. They also have to worry about these Sequids. I think that's how you say it, because it repossessed Russ. So that's going to spell a lot of trouble for Earth, especially since everyone is going off the assumption that they neutralized the threat. No one's aware that they didn't completely get rid of it. Then there's Angstrom Levy, or however you say his name, who basically has this vendetta or grudge against Mark because of something he chose to do to himself, and Mark was just trying to help. Not gonna lie, I kind of forgot about him for a hot little minute with everything else going on, but I do feel like Angstrom Levy will probably be more of an immediate threat, especially considering his abilities. But anyway, I think that's all I have for now. Y'all be sure to let me know how y'all feel about this episode in the comments. There's certainly a lot of things that's going on, a lot of things that's gonna need some sort of resolution one way or the other, and I look forward to seeing how it all plays out and gets wrapped up. Anyway, thank you all for your constant support. I appreciate it. As always, thank you for tuning in. SierraNovaa is out.